Whatever your life story, you deserve access to comprehensive, affordable health insurance. But it can be hard to know where to start. That's why Minnesotans have MNsure. MNsure is where you can find health coverage for every Minnesota story, regardless of where you live or what your income is. MNsure is the only place where you can access savings to help lower the cost of your health coverage. And you can get free help in person or over the phone to enroll in a plan that fits your needs and your story. Visit MNsure.org today to get started.
Gotta find me an angel.
You're listening to the Life After Loss podcast. This show is a safe place for angel moms and angel dads who have lost a child. It's a safe place to share, cry, celebrate, and connect to a community of parents who have experienced grief and gotten through it. Here's your host, Darcea Handy.
Angel moms and dads and everyone joining us from all over the world, thank you for joining us for this episode of our Life After Loss podcast. And you guys know I always say our Life After Loss podcast because this is for each one of us. Now, this week I'm going to pick up on where we left off last week. Remember last week we were really talking seriously about, can my marriage survive? Is my marriage in trouble? Will my marriage survive this loss? So last week, I gave you guys some assignments to do, and I equipped you with some information to help you do kind of a marriage assessment in your home to see where you are in your marriage at the time of the loss, where you are, where you were at the time of the loss, and to kind of sit down with your partner and see exactly where you're wanting to go from here. So I want to pick up on that. So you all have done your assessment now. You've seen where you are in your marriage and where you were in your loss. One thing I stressed last week was the importance of communication. So we're going to pick up here with that. You guys have communicated. Excuse me. You've talked about how you felt and how you feel and if the marriage is in trouble. Okay, now I'll say this first. If you feel that your marriage is in trouble, in serious trouble, then you and your spouse should seek out professional counseling. I will say that first and foremost. Your professional counseling will be your best bet if your marriage is seriously in trouble, if you recognize that. And I'm not talking about just spiritual counseling or with friends. I'm talking about seek out a professional marriage counselor to help you with your marriage, okay? Now, if you recognize that, okay, no, our marriage isn't in the trouble that we thought it was in, then it was a miscommunication, and now you know how each other feels, we can build from there. So this is what I want to tell you. So let's say you guys have talked it over and you know where you are, you and your husband, your spouse, your mate, you're in different places in your grief. And like I said, that's okay because you're probably going to feel different things at different times. But this is something that you guys can do. Get a list, get yourself a list and put some things down together that you want to do. So let me give you a minute to get some paper. I know I said that last week too, and I gave you half a second. But I'll give you a little bit more than that today, okay? Go ahead and get your paper and pen. Okay, you ready? I had to do that because a friend of mine told me, you speak with your eyes. She said, you make your eyes big all the time. I said, no, I don't. But I watched the show and I was like, I do. But that's just because we're having a conversation and I just feel like we're sharing information with each other as a family. So this is how I talk to my family, and this is how I'm talking to each one of you. So now that you have your paper and pencil, this is what I'd like for you to consider. Write some things down that you and your spouse can do together to remember your child. Now, I usually call some of these things rituals and memory making, which I've talked about before. In a previous video, rituals and memory making. But what I want to tell you is as a couple, take some time out to spend time together by yourselves, just the two of you, not with a lot of people with you. And be mindful of who you bring into that intimate circle, that intimate time when you and your husband are recovering from this loss. I know our family members have the best intentions, and they are great to have around. It's amazing to have your mom, your dad, your sisters, your brothers. It is amazing to have their support. But when it's time for you and your husband to deal with the pain of the loss of a child, pregnancy and infant loss of a child, then you two definitely need some time together, as I stated before. You can have guests, they can cook, help clean the house, do whatever they can to help you, but you and your husband have to have some alone time together. And that alone time should be inclusive of positive things and openness and honesty. That alone time should just be the two of you, heart to heart, how you're feeling and reconnecting. That alone time can look like, let's go and take a painting class together, just to be together. Let's go out for a walk together. Let's go clear our minds together. Let's go and write together. That alone time together could be, let's go and visit our child if you have had a service or your baby was funeralized and they're in baby land in a cemetery. You may want to go and go together to the cemetery to visit your child with just your husband, outside of it, all your family members and people who were there at the funeral. If you've had a miscarriage and you did not have a service for your child, but you still are longing for doing something for that child, how about you and your husband can sit down together and name your child, and then you can write a love letter to that child together and let the child know these are things that we wanted for you, but it just didn't happen. We asked for a baby, and God gave us an angel, and you're right back in heaven. Or sit with your husband, name your child, or you guys can sit together and let's say you can make a scrapbook just of like a parental diary that you guys had, something just to get your emotions and your feelings out together. And I say do this together because bear in mind, we're talking about, will my marriage survive? So will your marriage survive? These are things that you have to do together. And guess why I say that? Because sometimes when I'm writing, or when I used to write about my child, about my son, I would get upset, I would cry. And guess what? It felt good to have my husband right there next to me, feeling everything I was feeling. And sometimes he would say, wow, I didn't know that you felt that way. Oh, wow. Now, I've talked last week about you guys expressing where you are in your grief. But when you spend time together and you're actually doing something for that child, doing memory making or rituals, visiting their place of rest, naming your child, and the real and raw feelings of what you both are feeling comes out while you're both together, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It is a good thing because it's real, it's raw, and you're seeing it right on the spot. It's not like, okay, one of you have walked in the room and the other person is crying or the other person is upset and you're turning around, walking out, and you're like, oh boy, he's going through this again, or oh boy, she's going through this again. No, you are going through it together, and that's a good thing because realistically you're letting each other know how you feel about it. Another thing that I would say, I mentioned the painting classes, and the reason why is because there are classes now where you can do paintings and you can do ceramics and you can build things and actually dedicate it to someone. That could be something that you guys can do together and dedicate to the child that you lost, the memory of the child that you wanted. Also, I'm not sure where you are with your community service, but you can run a race. You can run in a marathon on behalf of your child, or you can also put a park in a bench or dedicate, even on a building that's being built, dedicate a brick or two to the memory of your child. You guys can get together and put a scholarship together for the memory of your child at one of the colleges you went to, or maybe one of the colleges you wanted to go to, or even for students of the high schools that you went to, or even the school that maybe you wanted your child to go to, the child that you lost. You can put a simple book scholarship there, $100 in the bookstore, or for toiletries in their room, or it can be $500. It can be whatever you want, as long as you all are doing it together. Those are memory making ideas. Your rituals can include, okay, where were we, when we found out, okay, or where did we like to eat when I was pregnant? Now, I know for me, when I was pregnant with my son, I liked Chipotle. So I like to say he was a Chipotle baby. And I'll be very honest with you. After he passed away and I had his funeral, I didn't eat at Chipotle for years. I just couldn't. But guess what? Now I can go into Chipotle and I'm okay with being there. As a matter of fact, I believe my first time eating at Chipotle, and you guys know my son would have been 16 years old this year. So my first time eating at Chipotle after I buried him was with my daughter. And I think it was either earlier this year or it was in 2020, but it was very recent. But that was something I had to deal with. That was on me. It had nothing to do with anyone else. But I'm letting you all know, if you know that there's a spot that you like together, you and your spouse, or there's a spot that brings positive memories for you, then go to that spot and share that time with each other. Okay. Now, I'm not saying, okay, if you crave something and you went there and it makes you sad, then of course you don't want to do that. But whatever it is that you do, you want to make sure that you and your spouse participate in activities together that's going to bring you all closer together. You've communicated that you want this marriage to work. If you need to see a marriage counselor, there are plenty of counselors available. Go to ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. We have resources available on our website for you. You can go to the Life After Loss podcast page and you can contact me directly. There are resources for you. So if you feel that you need to seek marriage counseling, do that. But if you feel like, okay, we communicated, like I said at the start of the show, we've communicated, we figured out where we are and we're going to be okay, then make sure that what you're doing for the child that you lost, you are doing it together. That's the way you can get through it together. Will your marriage survive? Absolutely. It certainly can. If you want it to survive, you do the work and make sure it survives. You two are a pair. You're a couple. Don't isolate yourselves. Be there for each other. Be there together. Spend that time together. Share what you're feeling with one another and spend time outside of the home together and reconnect. Look into the eyes of the person that you chose to spend the rest of your life with and remind yourself of why you chose to spend the rest of your life with them. Both of you do that. Remind yourself not of what's hurting you right now, but what brought you together in the beginning anyway. And remind yourselves of the future, because when you're looking into the eyes of the person that you married, especially after a loss, you're like, where's my future going to be? Look in those eyes and say, you know what? I can see our future in our eyes together. So you guys have to be there for each other together, and all things are possible when you are working together. Now, I said I wouldn't keep you all too long today, but I definitely wanted to follow up from last week's shows. And I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. And one thing I want to share with you is something that I've done very recently. I don't know if you could see it, but I have my bracelet for my son. I finally got it done. Here are the angel wings for him. And this just says, Mommy loves you, and Mom. And here's little boy shoes and a little scripture. And there are his initials. So, sorry if it's loud, but it's just his bracelet. And I'm very pleased with it. And I wear it every day, all the time. So angel moms and dads and family and friends, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that everyone is doing well out there. And as I always say, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time.
You've been listening to Life After Loss with your host, Darcea Handy. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast for new episodes every Wednesday. For more on this program, log on to ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
When my father-in-law came to live with me 5 years ago, I was overwhelmed by all the important decisions I had to help him make, especially the one about choosing the right Medicare plan. They got more than 100 plans alone in Minnesota, so how was I supposed to know which one was right for him? Thank goodness for the Senior Linkage Line. It's a free statewide service of the Minnesota Board on Aging in partnership with Trellis and the other area agencies on aging. They connect us to services and supports to help us find the answers we need. And honey, it's free. Did y'all hear me? Free help getting the best Medicare plan for you and your loved ones. The folks at the Senior Linkage Line, let me tell y'all something about them. They really care. They will work with you to figure out if your medications are covered. That way you know ahead of time what you're going to pay out of pocket. So do like I did. Give them a call at 800-333-2433 or log on to trellisconnects.org. And y'all best hurry up because time is running out to change your Medicare plan. You got until Tuesday, December 7th to find one that's right for you. So don't wait. Call the Senior Linkage Line today at 800-333-2433 or log on to trellisconnects.org. Let them help you like they helped me. You'll be glad you did.
It never fails. Every fall, I fall into a funk. Daylight savings time used to have me singing the blues until I found some help at BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp.com. It's an online resource that matches you with your own licensed professional therapist. Listen, ain't no shame in talking to somebody about how you feel. Your mom and your friends are great to talk to when you have problems. They're your go-to. But sometimes you need a professional, and that's where you need to call BetterHelp.com. Sometimes it's the only way to get your happy back. BetterHelp.com offers secure online counseling, either over the phone or via video. Now, it's not a crisis line, but BetterHelp.com has counselors who'll help you with your anger, stress, depression, or anxiety. The good news is that they're more affordable than traditional in-person counseling sessions. But you know what? If your money is funny, don't worry. BetterHelp.com even offers financial aid. Let BetterHelp.com help you get your happy back. Log on today to BetterHelp.com.